What is the best Cinderella run in the history of the tournament? I would say the 2-year run of Butler.
Butler, while they were a good team, won over 20 games during the regular season, but to get all the way to the Final Four, they're in their backyard in Indianapolis versus Duke. Yes, they came up a tick short, but that was an incredible run by Butler.
There was nothing better than seeing this little Indiana school make a run. The one depressing part was the half-court shot that didn't go in against Duke, but I think Butler making runs to the promised land, I always thought that was special. I always thought the ending could have been too fake if they would have won on a half-court shot at the buzzer, but I thought that was one of the best Cinderella runs as a fan I'd ever seen.
I understand most people would go with Butler, but George Mason breaking through to the Final Four, to me, is the greatest Cinderella run in the history, the illustrious history of the NCAA Tournament.
I grew up in Virginia, and so I always followed a lot of the schools from down that way. And Coach Larinaga I've always been a fan of. And then George Mason, he would always get to the NCAA tournament but lose in the first round.
George Mason, if you remember, was one of the last teams into the field, if not the last team in the field. So they get into the tournament, and along their path to the Final Four, they beat Michigan State, North Carolina. It wasn't like they beat Sisters of the Poor to get there. And then even to get to the Final Four, they had to take down mighty UConn.
But in 2006, Michigan State, and then UNC, and then Wichita State, and then ultimately beating UConn to get to the Final Four was an emotional moment in my home state. And so that's the one that sticks heavily in my head.
It's funny because I wasn't alive for this, but my favorite Cinderella run, just reading and watching videos and old highlights, was 1983 with Valvano and NC State. That has to be the answer. I don't care if you weren't alive, if you were too young, or whatever, or you've forgotten about it. Go back and watch that one.
I'd have to go back to 85 Villanova. Georgetown seemed unbeatable. I mean, so you mix in this incredible system that John Thompson deployed, and then you had the Villanova team that was good, obviously, but not revered. I think a lot of pundits thought, well, they're here now, it's a nice story, Ewing and the boys are going to demolish them, and they won. So I don't know that you'll ever quite see something like that again. It was unique.
I don't want to say there's a wrong answer to this question, but anything that's not NC State in 83 is a wrong answer. Cinderella term, big tournament upsets, just that whole storyline doesn't get better than that.